Welcome to Real Talk for Real Fundraisers, the podcast where fundraisers, nonprofit leaders, and industry experts come together to vent, laugh, and learn. Through candid storytelling and insightful interviews, we explore the highs, lows, and everything in between. With a fearless, irreverent, and conversational tone, we're breaking down barriers, challenging the status quo, and creating a safe space to tackle the real struggles of the nonprofit world, one honest conversation at a time. Now here's your host, Jeff Schreifels.
Hey everyone, happy that you could join me today. I've got a great guest today. He's got over 30 years of experience in nonprofit leadership and fundraising. T. Clay Buck is the founder and principal of Next River Fundraising Strategies, a consultancy focused on individual giving, strategy, systems, and storytelling. He also teaches fundraising and strategic planning at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and is the co-host of the #1 ranked fundraising podcast, Fundraising is Funny. Now, let's get ready for some real talk. All right, Clay, thank you for joining us.
Jeff, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So happy that you're on this podcast with me today. Okay. I've got to ask you, since you're the host of, the Fundraising is Funny podcast, I've got to ask you, tell me a funny story of fundraising.
Oh, there are so many, but the best funny stories are the ones we tell about ourselves. And you'll appreciate this with your focus on major gifts.
Yeah.
I will try to make a long story short here. I went on a major gift visit. And this had been a long time coming. The relationship was deep. This was not, like a prospecting visit or the first visit or whatever, right? We're coming in for the right here's the proposal, here's the ask, and met at this woman's office, and she had one of these very postmodern, mid-century. Do you remember the clear acrylic chairs?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a bucket chairs, right? So she had those around her conference table, and she says, "Why don't we sit at the conference table and talk?" And mid-century, these things were made in the 60s, and I'm not necessarily a delicate wilting flower. So we sit down at the table, and before I have fully put my weight into the chair, it shatters.
Oh my God.
Completely shatters. I fall, of course, in a suit, on my back, on the floor, papers flying everywhere. At least this is how I remember it. And of course, she was very gracious and very kind about the whole thing. And here, let's, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, et cetera. And of course, I'm going, okay, these are like antique, original, some major designer, blah, 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 thousands of dollars of chairs. And let's go sit on the sofa. And so we went and sat on our sofa and we talked, and just shards of acrylic, all over and I just, there is nothing that will throw you like something like that as you're going into, a visit. But it all turned out well. Again, the relationship was deep and solid. Secured the gift, thankfully, of course. Wow. She became one of our key volunteers, a leader. But as I was leaving the office, she said, "Let me have my assistant show you out." And I looked at the assistant and I went, "I am so sorry. I am so embarrassed." And the assistant goes, "Oh, no, thank you. We hate those chairs."
Oh my gosh. I can just imagine just flat out on the floor.
Oh, just, yeah, no. Embarrassed. Awful. Yeah, all of it. All of it.
That's a good one, though. I gotta say.
I never did check, though, and I should have. Did she deduct the amount of the chair from her gift?
Yeah. Oh, so many things to talk about.
Yeah.
Clay. I mean, gosh. So let's take advantage of all of your experience that you've had. And I know that much like me, you kind of fell into this, kind of by accident. You weren't looking for it, really.
Yeah.
But you've learned some things now over 30 some years.
A few, yeah. Made some mistakes.
Yeah. So maybe we can learn from some of those. But what concerns do you have right now in the nonprofit space, and what concerns you? And then does it remind you of any other times over that course of 30 years? Or are we in unprecedented times? So I'd love to get your perspective on that.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice to live in precedented times for change?
I know.
it makes me think of, people talk about being overwhelmed or underwhelmed. Like nobody ever talks about being whelmed. I just like to be whelmed for once, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of similarities right now to previous times, and there are very distinct times and periods that I'm thinking of. I mean, you know the stories.
Yeah.
Fundraised through the turn of the century, through the Y2K, through the first .com, right?
Yeah. Bubble.
Bubble and bust,
Yeah.
then into, the Great Recession and the economic downturns of 2008 and several, tense political years. And the thing is, we have numbers on all this. We have metrics on all this. We know what donors do during an election, during a federal United States election. We know what donors do during economic downturns, and we know what they do during a massive global recession. We now have data on what donors do during a global pandemic. Like, we keep learning and we keep leaning back on proven principles to keep us moving forward. We do not have a playbook right now, because we have economic what? Like,
Yeah.
we don't know what the economy is doing, and it's up and down and it's sideways. We have, yes, let's just admit, political turmoil. We have social issues all over the
Yeah.
place. We have global issues. We have the looming possibility of a global, we don't know, because there are so many variables. And the biggest variable now is, as I see it, and as I'm experiencing, certainly with the clients that I work with and the communities within our work, we now have this added fear of federal funding. And
Yeah.
that grant funding is having a massive impact on
Yeah.
the way we look at where we just don't have a playbook for this. There
Yeah.
isn't a number we can say, oh, well, when, federal funding is threatened and this and this and this, here's the number. We don't have a playbook for it, which means, right, what do? Well, it's when this is the time to lean on the proven principle. This is not the time and this is what I'm worried about. Is in a situation like this, it's easy to jump into gimmicks and tricks and, just do anything to scramble for money. But I think this time is calling us for us to dig deeper into proven relationships. That, I think, is the true key here. And what I worry about is we'll become so concerned about budgets and revenue that we will become even more transactional than we are.
Are you seeing any of this happening right now around the transactional side, where they're nonprofits are immediately cutting without really spending the time thinking about this?
I have not seen a significant level of cuts. Like, I'm not hearing any more than usual,
Okay.
cut back on direct mail, cut back on this, don't do this. We do have a tendency, and we are very often driven into it by our well-meaning, big-hearted, but often not as informed as they could be on actual fundraising. A lot of boards and leadership getting panicky and going, focus on wealthy donors, focus on, you need to get more grants. Well, now's federal grants especially are going to be tough. Corporate grants all of it is going to be different and tricky. And it's I don't see anybody. Your question was, do you see it affecting? I see it affecting for the organizations that either have already had grants in jeopardy or have potential jeopardy or have grants in question. And they're looking at what do we do, right?
Yeah.
We talk so much about diversification of funding. The trouble is you can't do it when you're in panic mode. So if you ask me, what I would say is now is the time. Now is the time to really roll up the sleeves and strategize and create a strong strategy for diversifying funding that is rooted in community, that is rooted in individuals, that is rooted in solid mission and donor relations.
Yes.
Because I do think what we're going to see, and I'm already seeing some of this, I think what we're going to see is more individual donors, particularly at the low and the mid range, but I think also in major gifts. I think we're going to see more donors drill down on the nonprofits that are most important to them. We always find ways to afford things that are important to us, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am not giving up my
Yeah.
Prime membership. I'm sorry. Just not giving up my next day delivery, you know?
Yeah. Agree.
So we always find ways to afford things that are important to us. And I think what we're going to see is donors start to go, these are the charities that are most important to me, and less of, oh, I can give 25 here, 50 here, 100 there, right? I think we're going to see less. The word isn't indiscriminate, but you know what I mean. And
Yes.
more doubling down on, these are the ones that matter the most to me and my family.
I think you make a really good point there, because this is an opportunity as well for organizations to look at those relationships they have with their donors, and the service they're providing their donors, and how do they view their donors.
Correct.
And really bring up that customer service, that warmth that they need towards their donors, that
Correct.
relationship building, because that will weather the storm, and those donors will look at your organization as the top 1 to 3 that they give to.
Absolutely.
You know,
when we acknowledge donors as partners in mission, not as funders of it.
yeah,
Because I think that's the thing that we miss so much. We're not, like, I would love more than anything to change all of our vocabulary. Let's stop asking. Let's stop pitching. Let's start inviting. Let's
Yeah.
start offering.
I love
Right?
that.
Let's start engaging as a partner in the mission. That's what people want. That's what donors want. And I'm by no means saying give a donor everything they want, but I am saying donors don't want to buy a gift to fund a mission. They want to be a part of work that matters to them. And that's how they can
Yeah.
do it, is by giving.
Yeah. All right. So far, just to summarize what I'm hearing you say is, we're in unprecedented times.
Yes.
However, this is the time to have a clear plan.
Yes.
Go back to what's really the basics of your plan, and making sure it's solid.
Mm-hmm.
Execute that well.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, provide outstanding donor service.
Yep.
And really look at your donors as part of your mission.
Correct. 100%.
And all the other stuff we can't control, right? We can't control what's going on, and, world wars. And I mean,
No.
those are things that we don't have no control over.
Exactly.
Control what you can control. And those two things are things that we can control.
And to add to that, I think we don't give enough credence to, especially in times like this, the need to control. So when we feel out of control, it is a human tendency we have to control something, right? And in a way, when a donor is giving to a mission, when they're engaging with a mission, they're saying, there's a part of them at some level that is saying, everything is this is why we saw the increase in pandemic giving, right? Everything is out of control. I don't know what's going on. I can't do anything about it, but I can do this. I can rescue this dog. I can feed this person. I can pay for this kid's education, right? So by controlling what we can control, we're allowing our donors to exert a sense of agency and control in their world by being a part of our mission.
That's a good word there. Yes. Okay. Well, now I want to know. I want to know, what are you excited about right now in our industry?
Yeah, I'm hesitating to choose the words carefully.
Yeah.
Because I think this is it's. I'm excited about it. I'm also cautiously optimistic. We have so much technology and information and data. There is no reason, there's nothing that we can't put some sort of data-informed approach to, which means we know more about why people give, how people give, what this work is, what works, what doesn't. We know so much more now. I mean, you talk about falling into fundraising, right? When I started, the database of record was the 3x5 cards and the file with the carbon, And if you needed to find a trend in fundraising, you called up AFP and they'd research it. And 3 months later, you'd get a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy in the mail with some report that was 2 years old, right? And now it's at our fingertips. So there's so much that we can be informed of and approach. And with what technology is doing, what it can do for us in terms of efficiency, in terms of connection, in terms of, it's incredible. Like, it's
Yeah.
incredible. And then I'm not even going to talk about AI, right?
Yeah.
The caution of it is we have to be um, discerning about it, because not every source is a great source. Not every study is a valid study. Not every tech is good tech, So with the blessings of it comes the caution of it, but I'm more excited about what it can do and what we can learn and what we can put into play, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think there is a lot of great things with technology, and with taking technology and major gifts, for example.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, "Oh, aren't you worried about AI?" And I'm saying, no. I mean, anything that can help the major gift fundraiser
Mm-hmm.
develop a relationship with a person, a
Mm-hmm.
donor, that's amazing. Let's, you know,
100%. Yeah.
let's bring it on,
100%.
right?
100%.
It's not going to replace it. There's always going to be a place for human to human contact
Correct.
in fundraising, because someone who's going to get part with a 6 or 7 figure gift, it's got to have some trust level with a human being.
Of course. And I do think we're seeing. I do think we're seeing people are much more willing to connect via Zoom, virtually. They're much more willing to interact with technology. So, like, I'm gonna assume that maybe we need fewer visits, maybe,
Yeah.
depending on the person. And certainly anybody that's done annual fund, direct mail, etc., has had that donor that makes the major gift and says, I don't need to see you every year. You don't need to come to the house. I don't need to have lunch with you. Just, send me them a renewal notice and I'll take care of it. Keep me updated, right? Everybody's had that, and everybody's had that. So I think we've got to learn to adjust to what specific donors want. And certainly we are seeing some success with AI driven. But the thing about AI and the thing about all technology, it's not going to replace this.
Right.
But it is the person who knows how to use it who is going to replace us.
Right.
Yes.
Agree. Yep. Okay. Let's just pretend this is just you and me here, and we're just having a conversation. No one else can hear what we're saying. I love being in this position, but if you don't have to be polite, I would love to hear, what would you say to nonprofit leaders right now?
Invest in your data. It is the hardest investment to get nonprofits to make. Unless they are the size of nonprofit that has an advancement services, a development operations shop. Like that's, invest in data. Seth Godin talks about the time that we're living in as the connection economy, right? Where who you know and how you know them and how you're connected to them matters more than previous economies of wealth, of tech, of et cetera, right? Well, if that is true, if we accept this connection economy idea, there are some that have said that data is the oil of the connection economy. It is not. It's not the oil. It's the land. It's the ground. It is not something that is extracted and used. It is something that we resource and manage, right? And take care of. Data is not extractive. It is informative. So the number one investment that nonprofits can make is in clean, usable, actual data, names, addresses, phone numbers, emails, proactively capturing this and being in an omni-channel approach. It's as simple as getting names right will have a huge effect. And then number two, I will never understand this. Why, when we know for a fact, and we have so many studies that prove it, it is a stronger ROI, it is more cost effective, and there's a higher return on investment to retain a donor than to acquire a donor.
Yeah.
And yet getting anybody to invest in retention strategies, where you don't have time to send thank you letters. You need to be out in the community visiting people. When, 10 thank you letters to renew, 5 don't, like, the math is there. And getting folks to invest in the physical and the philosophical of donor retention, but it's always find newer, find better, find richer, when we're losing the
we
people.
find this in major gifts too. It's like everyone loves the new thing, and they don't like nurturing the old stuff.
When a leader, if it's just you and me talking, and you're asking me if I could say anything to, anybody with basically no censor button, I would say, look, that just because that person has a wealth score doesn't mean they like you, because guess what? Every other nonprofit in your community has the same list.
Exactly.
So I am much more interested in you going back to that person that gave you $1,000 5 years ago and investing in renewing and reinvigorating that relationship, because you've looked up their phone number, you've researched them, you've sent them, something. They're already there.
Yeah.
They're already in your database.
100%.
Now, I know there are a lot of nonprofits that don't have a database. I get it. Different story. But if you have any significant amount of data or history, your best donors are already in there. And getting anybody to believe that and invest in it is the hardest conversation.
That's a good point. So if you're a leader out there, please heed
Wait, I thought it was
Clay's
just
call.
us. I thought it was just you and me talking.
Okay. Well, now what about to fundraisers? What would you say to fundraiser?
This one's hard because I have lived this, right?
Yeah.
And I say this from where I am now, acknowledging there's a certain amount of privilege, and a certain amount of, beyond privilege. I don't know what the right word is, but stand up, start leading from where you are. You're the expert. Your board is not, your CEO is not, unless your CEO is also a trained, experienced fundraiser, right? Your leadership, you are you know how to fundraise. Your marketing team is not, your comms team is not. The person who has responsibility for the revenue line is the person that should have all final decisions when it comes to fundraising. And that's everything from brand color to logo to message to mission. And if I want to encourage fundraisers to start stepping into that strength and confidence. And if I teach preparation courses for the CFRE, and one thing, and every time I do it, it's less about information and more about confidence. You know this stuff, right? And you might not know, right? The impact of a direct mail appeal on the absence or presence of a Johnson box. Like, I mean, come on. This is not the stuff to get worried about. The stuff to get worried about is what's best. And then when somebody is pushing you into something that is not ethical, not right, not effective, as tough as it is, stand, because you are the advocate for your donors. You are the advocate for your community's presence within the organization. And I know it's hard, but sometimes we got to ruffle some feathers.
Yes. I love that. Yes. Confidence, going in thinking, hey, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we talk to like major gift officers, we talk to them about how they create stories in their heads about donors that they just kind of make up because it helps them get through something.
Sure.
Personally,
sure.
Like if they've reached out a couple of times and they didn't hear from a major donor,
sure,
they'll self-talk and create a story in their head that, oh, the donor doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hear from me. And they create the story over and over for many people in their portfolio.
Of course, right. And it's very easy to get into, oh, the economy's bad, we shouldn't be asking right now. Nobody has any money. We have to stop these gross assumptions that don't have any basis in fact. Yes. If there's not data to support it, then don't believe it. And I know it's hard when you hear no 10 times a day, when your last 5 visits have been flops. I get it, but not everybody is thinking the same way. I don't know about you, Jeff, but the number one thing that I hear from major gift folks, donors aren't returning my calls. Donors aren't getting back.
Yes.
Well, there's a couple of things. One, how many times did you actually call? There's a lot of, well, I sent them an email. Okay, that's on you, right? You have to pick up the phone. You have to leave voicemails. And that's the other thing. We are all busy and we are all impacted by noise. The fact that they're not returning your calls, the fact that they're not getting back to you or responding to your email, that's not about you. That's about that. Remember, I learned this from Mark Phillips at Blue Frog Fundraising in the UK, right? Remember, she is not one of your donors. You're one of her nonprofits. You're one of her charities, right?
Yes. We
are not the number one priority. No matter what time it is in our fiscal year, we are not the number one priority on our donors.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. So much.
Right.
I feel like 70% of the coaching that we do with our fundraisers around the country is around some kind of thing around their lack of confidence or self-talk and something in their head about donors that are not true.
Agreed.
You know, that we've
Agreed.
got to like, hold on now. This is not true. You know, you just need to keep at it, being persistent, being
Yep.
patient, and don't give up.
Yep.
And then the stories come back. You know what? You were right. If I hadn't done this,
Right.
you know, we have this whole qualification thing, like 7 to 9 touches that came from, you know, you to qualify a donor, you've got to at least give them 7 to 9 attempts.
Yeah.
And usually around the 5th attempt, you start seeing a bunch of them qualify.
Right.
And then we see these fundraisers come up to us and said, I would have given up at 2, but someone coached me to keep going, and I did, and it works, you know?
Right. Right.
So like, yeah, that's one of these things I would say to fundraisers, like, keep at it.
Exactly.
You will not believe how it will open up for you.
It was probably about 10, maybe 15 years into my career that I started measuring touch to action ratios, especially for me in direct mail, digital, etc. How many touches did it take before someone made a gift? Right. So, and, you know, direct mail world, like direct response, a little different, you know, short, but on average for, I don't know, 10 different organizations I can name, the average was anywhere from, I remember saying this to a chief development officer who's like, that's way too specific. But it was on average anywhere between 3.8 and 4.7 touches before somebody would make a decision, which informed our strategy so much differently, because then the touches, it became through line rather than disjointed. Right. That's the other thing I see is the best method for raising money is a conversation. Yes, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. Always will be, right? The one-on-one conversation. But any other methodology is there to mirror that one-on-one conversation. So if you're sending a letter and then an email and then a text or whatever, right? And they're all disjointed and say different things, of course, it looks different, it feels different, right? But that through line of communications. The other thing too is in communication, set up expectations, set up the next thing, right? Hey, I'm sending you this email. If I haven't heard from you, I'm going to call you in a week. Yeah. Right? So that we're not surprising people with, wait, where did this come from? You know?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Last big question for you here. So you've been doing this for a long time, you know?
Oh gosh.
And so I'm sure you've made a few mistakes along the way. And I always think it's helpful to let people know mistakes. We're often, just as human beings, we don't like to admit stuff because it makes us feel like we're weak or something. And I think that's totally bullshit. And so tell us about some mistakes that you've learned from, so that those that are listening, they don't have to make those mistakes.
And not to sound like a broken record, but probably the biggest mistakes I made early on were not investing in and understanding the power of data and the power of infrastructure and how important that is, you know, and sending out and doing phone campaigns and all of that without good information, without names, without, right? So that's one. And I think the second, is it a mistake? I think maybe this is why I coach and talk and invest so much in it now. If I had, so maybe not a mistake, but if I had it to do over, I would have stepped more into my confidence as a young fundraiser. If I hadn't been, you know what it is, Jeff, and especially for anybody that starts into this business and into this work coming out of a lower economic status, it is very hard. And when I was coming in, we didn't acknowledge this enough and we didn't train to it enough. It is very hard for, I mean, like me, I came out of acting school. I had no money. You know, I'm wearing my best filing basement suit, you know, in Chicago going on these major gift visits, right? And so money as power and position as power, that dynamic was very tough. If I had it to do over again, I would step more into confidence and more into, these people need this mission as much as we need them, as opposed to that sort of, oh, it's a rich person, I should be. They're just people. They're just people.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're as afraid of you as you are of them. You know, we're all human. And that, I think, is, again, not a mistake, but a lesson that I wish I could tell my younger self. Right.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's a really important one. Hopefully anyone listening will take that in, because that is really true. Believe in yourself.
I'm just this close to being the "you kids get off my lawn" guy. I'm just about reaching that stage of life. And so I really hate to say this. It sounds so like what older people said to me when I was younger. There's a lot that younger people coming into this profession have to learn. And there's a lot of things that I wish, certainly with some of our emerging leaders, there's things that I'd love to tell them that, okay, I know that's what you were taught, but that's not right. That's never what it was meant to be, right? The flip side of that is they're bringing an energy and a confidence and an unwillingness to put up with BS that we didn't have. We never thought to question some of those systems. And I'm Gen X. We questioned everything, right? As much as our MTV and Atari, addled brains could handle, right? But I do think we need to listen to some of the confidence that's coming in from younger generations into the profession who just aren't willing to put up with. I'm not putting up with power dynamics, good.
Yeah.
Like, there are lessons to learn there. There are lessons we can learn from them. There's lessons we can learn from this. This is, if you were going to ask me the next question, we're going to be, what do I wish for the sector? That's what I wish for the sector. What I wish is more really engaged, open dialogue of us, the older guys, going, the older white men of fundraising going, well, that's good, right? Let's learn from that. And also being able to, hey, look, this is where I fell. So let me show you how not to fall there, which is so hard when, to hear, right? But I'd love to see much more exchange and dialogue and conversation. Actually, I'm going to revise my answer from earlier. I think that's what I'm most excited about. Excited about is, what does this work of generosity and philanthropy look like now? Because I think our donors are different, our fundraisers are different. I think we're on the cusp of some real interesting change and evolution, right?
Yes. Love that. Good stuff.
I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Jeff, you and I would have been doing this in a white shirt and a tie and a jacket.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I barely put this on with a collar.
Right. I'm literally wearing basketball shorts and flip-flops. I just put on a collared shirt for the Zoom. Like, it's what we do. I mean, look at the exhibit hall at a major conference or at any conference, and you see people in jeans and t-shirts. Totally. And it used to be, you didn't go to Icon unless you were in a blue suit and, banker, all that, right? Just that simple, that is making philanthropy just more casual is huge.
I love that. Yeah,
I do too.
Very true. Very true. So how do people find you? So tell me about your podcast. Tell me about some of your work. People might want to hang out with you.
So Lynn Wester and I, the podcast Fundraising is Funny came from our joint therapy sessions during the pandemic. They're basically podcast versions of our texts to each other. So the podcast is available at fundraisingisfunny.com. You can reach us there. We don't have a season 3 out yet, but all of season 1 and 2 are there. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm on all socials as
you are.
And I'm decent at responding to LinkedIn messages, but you can also reach me at nextriverfundraising.com.
Fantastic. Well, hey, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. This is my pleasure.
It's been great. I love your energy. Thanks for everything you do in our industry, and for
and
AFP,
I've said this,
for all the coaching you've been doing and training and teaching.
I've said this to you privately, and I'm now honored to get to say to you publicly how much I have learned from you over the years. And there was a time when I was at a consulting firm that we worked with same clients, but I don't know that we didn't know each other. It wasn't joint products, but we'd hear from clients that they were in your classes or working with you all or whatever. And we're doing, a different portion of it. So I have learned a great deal from you all over the years. I have read your book. I read your blogs, your posts. You are probably on my top list of thought leaders that I refer to. So thank you for what you put out into the sector and for letting me be a part of this today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.